Hey Mark, good morning.
Hi, Jamel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
So far, so good. I got a little bit of a cold, so
Oh no. Better.
113 is a good number. It must have jumped up at the last minute, right?
Yes, yeah. I checked last week and I think we were at the 100 mark, or the 100 point. So yeah, I from the last week I've seen it go up. So this is good.
That's great. So I'm not going to be dealing much with the chat. I'm going to leave it to you guys
Okay.
simply because there's just often too many questions and it goes, too quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't think people want necessarily for me to be answering individual questions unless it looks pretty like a common question.
Okay.
Right. I'll try to ignore it. Does my screen look okay?
All good, Mark.
Okay. Should we let people in?
Yes, I'm gonna start letting people in, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Hi. So I do have a couple of questions actually.
Yeah, we're going to be
Just-
starting the info session in about 2 minutes, so we'll answer probably every question in that info session.
Okay, sure, thank you.
So just hold on.
Hey, Mark. I hope you can hear me and see me well. Good to see you again.
Hey, Sreekar, how are you? Good to see you.
All well, all well. Good
All
to see
right,
you.
thank
Yeah, how
you.
are things on your end?
Yeah, we're doing quite well. Thank you for supporting this. We've got over 100 people registered for this event, so that's a great sign. We'll get to you probably around 9:40, 9:45, something like that, local time here. So,
Sure, I'll listen in until then, happily.
okay, thank you. Thank you for your support and welcome to Gradvine and all the great people at Gradvine, and also welcome to all the info session attendees. I'm Mark Werwath. I'm the director of the MEM program here at Northwestern. The Northwestern MEM program targets experienced STEM professionals who want to develop their leadership skills in a structured environment with leading edge practitioners that fundamentally are being taught on the ground face to face. So that's our modality. We do not have an online program. We do cater to both full-time and part-time students. So if you're a full-time student here, you can complete your program in anywhere from 9 to 15 months. And with that, let's get started. This is the agenda for today. We were going to basically, besides introductions, talk about why pursue MEM, why pursue it at Northwestern, what does our curriculum look like, what's the student experience look like, and what is the career services that we offer, what are the requirements for admission, what are some of the outcomes that we've seen. Today we'll have a special agenda where we'll have two guest speakers. One is Karan Gupta, who's not with us quite yet, but he will be in about 20 minutes. He's an MEM student, soon to be an alum. He graduates in about 30 days or so. And then Sreekar Reddy, who's the founder or one of the founders of Gradvine, which is an excellent resource for anyone pursuing any kind of master's in engineering management type program. He's got his finger on the pulse, and that organization has their finger on the pulse of virtually all the MEM programs that are out there. This is our staff. Once you're admitted into the program, Renaissance McIntyre is the associate director that will work with you on a pretty close to daily basis. Communications, registration, all the logistics of the program run through her. Up until that point, you'll be working with Jamel. Jamel is in charge of admissions for MEM. All the admissions decisions are managed through her. She runs a committee, and that committee helps me decide who gets admitted and who doesn't. All that documentation and logistics pre-admission goes through Jamel. Supporting both are Karan and Daxon. Those are basically some program associates that help us with the details of scheduling and registration and graduation and communications and event planning. As you can imagine, we have a lot of events, a lot of ways we connect up our students with local industry, local professionals. We also have over 14 faculty that are dedicated to teaching for MEM. And these faculty are what I would call mostly practitioners. I would say probably 80 or 90% practitioners, folks that work in the field, usually at the VP level or above. We have a couple of CEOs, a couple of entrepreneurs, but generally we've got a faculty that have more than 20 years experience. So we are known for practitioner-based learning in our program. And a lot of our practitioners are active in the field every day, not just theoretical and not just academics. My background is mostly practitioner. I've spent the last 10 or 20 years in academics in a variety of different ways, pursuing my PhD, doing some modest research, but also working at Northwestern as initially an adjunct professor and later becoming the director of the program. Prior to that, I was at Motorola, I was at WMS Gaming, I was at Northrop, so I've got experience in the telecom industries, the consulting industry, the gaming industry, and the aerospace and defense industries. So I think it gives me a pretty good cross-section to draw from. Classic engineer, working my way up into project program management, and then director of biz ops, what they call business operations within the engineering functions at all of these companies. My job today is very different from what it used to be. Today, I accept only the best students as the director. I have to keep the curriculum current and relevant. So, obviously AI content is sprinkled across almost the entire curriculum for MEM. My job is to help network students, to help them find opportunities, to help them find career options within the US and within ideally the Midwest, and ideally also within the industry of their choice. I want to help stretch students beyond their comfort zone, right? My job is not to make you comfortable, but in many cases to make you a little bit uncomfortable, pushing you into directions, whether that's research or whether that's practical projects, or whether that's using AI in ways they've never used AI before, right? Ultimately, my job is to develop technology and engineering leaders. So leaving the program, we want you to be viewed as a leader by the community. We also want you to view yourselves as leaders and to be next generation top leadership in organizations around the world. So who do we target? Once again, mid-level practicing. So that, we do want about 3 years experience or thereabouts, right? STEM professionals who intend or are already managing people, projects, innovations, or businesses, right? Entrepreneurs are welcome. Folks that have experience in consulting, people who have experience as engineers in the field, they're all welcome to apply to our program here. Specifically, those who want a systems perspective, to the ability to apply engineering concepts and analytical tools to help solve everyday business problems, right? And to solve them in a methodical way, right? To solve them in a way that's, quant-based, right? We are very quant-based in our program. So you'll see why in a moment, but fundamentally it's because of where we come from. We're industrial engineers fundamentally here in this department. Also, we target those who strive to be a leader in the C-suite. So that could be CEO, COO, CTO. Engineers want to start a technically oriented enterprise. So the entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, these are people who work inside companies who want to start businesses within a company. Full-time students who want to complete their program can do so in 9 months or 15 months. We are a 12-course program that is based on a quarter basis, right? So every quarter you can take 4 courses or 3 to maintain your full-time status. That means you can finish in 9 months or 15 at your choice. If you're on the 15-month program, we recommend, but we do not require, we do recommend that you take an internship. And many of our students have found internships both inside Chicagoland and across the country. Internships help solidify the teachings from the class and help you apply those concepts in a very quick fashion. Those with slightly less than 3 years experience, I think you should apply, absolutely, even if you have as little as 2 years experience. We count experience up to the point of admission, actually the point of matriculation. So if you're starting in September 26th, the question is how much experience will you have by September 26th, right? So engineering management as a profession, right? The DOL, the Department of Labor, reports that engineering managers are like the 4th highest profession outside of medical in the US. So that includes, for example, airline pilots, chief executives, IS managers, computer managers. As you can see, architectural and engineering managers are just below that. So BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, projects that there will be 212,000 engineering management jobs in the US within the decade. So it's obviously a growing field, 4% growth from 2024 through 2034. Key differentiators. We're very different from an MBA, even though it sounds like, people say, oh, I'm getting an MBA for engineers. That's a nice kind of abbreviation of sorts or a summary, but frankly, I think we're quite different from the MBA in terms of how we deliver and what we deliver, right? We focus on creating what's known as the T-shaped engineer. These are engineers that have a deep breadth or a deep depth of knowledge that comes from your bachelor's degree, and it comes from how you've practiced for the last 2 or 3 years. We build that horizontal portion of the T. So with that horizontal portion meaning systems thinking, communication skills, soft skills of all sorts, including negotiations, but also analytics, decision making, using engineering techniques to solve business problems. That's what makes us different. We're very technology focused, obviously, so we bring technology into our case studies, into our projects, applying business thinking to various types of technical projects. Great example would be a microgrid. A microgrid is obviously an inverter of a source of energy like solar panels and some sort of storage, a battery storage typically. From a technical perspective, that's an easy thing to conceptualize. But from a business perspective, how do you monetize that, right? So we ask that question and help you answer the question, how do you monetize technology in the most effective way? So microgrids, you can sell power to the grid, you can store energy for the grid, you can stabilize the grid in terms of its frequency and its operation. You can do something called arbitrage, where you're buying energy low and selling it high. These are 3 or 4 mechanisms for monetizing any microgrid anywhere. And we've had great success helping students develop that skill and that kind of innate ability to figure out how to translate the technology at hand to the business needs, to the monetization scheme, right? So in that sense, I think we're quite different from an MBA. You have obviously fellow students who are also experienced engineers. Typical MBA programs appeal to everybody, not just engineers. So engineers in a typical MBA program might be fewer than 15%. On the other hand, ironically, the faculty at an MBA program is often more than 50% engineering educated. So you're getting engineers either way. They're teaching you either at the MBA program or they're teaching you here in the engineering school, the MEM program at Northwestern. We're faster. We only have 12 courses compared to 20 or more in a typical MBA program. Obviously, you're not going to get the in-depth accounting, finance, and marketing that you would normally get in an MBA. If that's what you're looking for, or if you're looking to enter the world of finance, or specifically the world of marketing, you might want to consider an MBA program. Otherwise, if you want to embrace your technology background, your engineering skills, your legacy as an engineer, then I encourage you to consider MEM. There's a difference in terms of scale. I mean, MEM programs might generate 3,000 graduates in a year versus closer to 200,000 or 300,000 graduates of MBA programs across the country. So it's almost 100 to 1, right? So we are about 1% of the MBA population. So why Northwestern? There's obviously some great programs. MEM PC, is a collection of some of the best programs in the country. Gradvine is a great resource to help you sort through these various programs. We've got a great reputation. We are ranked number 3 in the US. Northwestern was recently ranked by US News and World Report, I believe number 10 in the country as a university. We are a whole brain education. So if you're familiar with left brain, right brain thinking, we combine both. We embrace both, and our courses and our curriculum reflect that. So we want you to embrace the soft skills and the hard skills. Those hard skills these days: analytics, data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, agentic AI, et cetera, LLMs. But on the soft skills, leadership, management, communications, negotiations, these are some of the soft skills that will differentiate you and propel your career as an engineer going forward. We combine engineering, technology, and business within the industrial engineering department. So our bias is towards optimization techniques, otherwise known as operations research, OR. So you'll be taking a mandatory course in operations research as part of your MEM degree here. That's not true in other MEM programs, definitely not true in an MBA program. We have a balance of Northwestern faculty, but frankly, we are more focused on practitioners. We are, like I said, 80–90% practitioners in our faculty base. We do encourage you to think horizontally across the university. So that means, embracing other departments, other schools, the Entrepreneurship Center, the Kellogg School, other professional masters, the Garage, the Medill School of Marketing and Communications. We embrace all of these because we want you to explore and understand how organizations work and think horizontally, right? So you're able to take classes in all these places, including the Design Center, the Siegel Design Center, the Farley Center, Medill, et cetera. And we are quite flexible, like I said before, 9 months or 15 to finish your program. Part-time students can take upwards of 5 years to finish their program. So if you're not a full-time student, and many of our domestic students are part-time, you can finish it in as long as 5 years or 15 quarters. So again, we focus on experienced STEM professionals. We have a small class size. Many MEM programs have large class sizes of 50, 60, 70 students. Our classroom will be probably no more than 30 or 35 students in the classroom, and our cohort is generally under 50. Our areas of concentration, which is, again, is a little bit unique here at Northwestern. We have product management, we have supply chain, we have project and process management, and we have analytics, managerial analytics. We help you build on entrepreneurship skills. We really emphasize that. You'll have some electives to choose from. We encourage you to take at least one entrepreneurship course. We have a lot of interesting industries surrounding us here in Chicago: food tech, med tech, manufacturing, finance, and fintech are all pretty dominant here in Chicago, with pharmaceutical perhaps being at the top of the list. We have a beautiful campus here right on Lake Michigan. It's tree lined. It's relatively compact from north to south. It's less than 3/4 of a mile. So it's very walkable. Students find affordable or semi-affordable housing within walking distance of the campus. We do have a lower cost of living compared to the coasts. Being in the Midwest, we have a more moderate, I'd say, in terms of cost of living, but also a somewhat more moderate climate. We do have 4 seasons here. So we do have winter, and we anticipate having snow within the next few weeks here. But hopefully it's not too onerous. We do have student competitions and events such as industry night, networking events, tours, plant tours. We've already gone this quarter, I believe, on 3 different plant tours, and we expect at least 2 or 3 more for the rest of the school year. Again, we have a mostly full-time population. We have about 10%, maybe 15% part-time students. The part-time students obviously take longer to graduate. They will be here for 3 years sometimes or more. The full-time students generally are out in 15 months. This is how the IEMS department looks right now today. We have a very strong bachelor's degree. We have probably about 100 students that graduate every year. PhD program, very strong, very well respected. We place some of the best faculty across the country trained right here at Northwestern IEMS. Besides the MEM program here, we also have something called Learning and Data Science. If you are intent and interested in being a data scientist and you don't want to get a PhD, your options these days include things like the Learning and Data Science Masters. So that's a full-time day program. We are mostly offered at night. So our classes are at night while LDS is during the day. And their program does not have the flexibility, but it does have a lot of credibility in terms of a very strong data science program. What does our curriculum look like? You take 7 core classes. You'll have 2 advanced engineering methods courses to choose from, and or to choose, I should say. And you have 3 electives of many, many dozens of electives to choose from that we consider free electives. So you have the ability to really tailor at least 40% of the program to meet your needs, whatever those needs are. The 7 core classes include an engineering management course. That course specifically looks at simulating the running of a business. So as an engineer, you'll be able to get hands-on and actually make decisions and run a business and see the implications in a cloud-based simulation that's known as StratSim. StratSim is sometimes used in an MBA program, but it's often used as the capstone at the end. We use it at the beginning because we want students to get a hands-on feel for what it means to run a business and to encourage you and incentivize you to learn more about marketing, finance, and accounting, which are some of the basic skills needed within a business setting. Again, accounting, finance, and marketing are also courses we teach you after you take the gateway. So I think you'll have a better appreciation for it once you take the gateway. Decision tools is operations research, as I mentioned before. We do have a leadership course that's required as part of the core. And we have a capstone course, usually strategic management or technology strategy. That capstone is offered by a CEO of a local, very successful steel company, Chicago Tube and Iron. All right, these are the AEM courses you can choose from. You need to choose two, right? I'm not going to go through this whole list, but I can assure you that project management and product management are probably two of the most popular courses. And the Newvention is a very specific vertically defined entrepreneurship course that's unique to Northwestern. We invented the Newvention model for teaching, which includes bringing in industry leaders, having various topics within the vertical, and also having students work in small teams to create a startup in that vertical. So the verticals include web, medical, and energy at this point, and those are pretty popular courses. So if you're interested in any of those three, you'll have a Newvention course to support you. Additional electives, we just put down some very high-level options for you. You could take courses from other master's programs here at the College of Engineering. You can also take courses from Kellogg, the School of Management. You can also take IEMS courses if you want to do a deep dive into analytics, Siegel Design Center, and of course, Newvention courses as well. We do have some specific electives within MEM, including BPR and negotiations. So this is what it looks like on one page. This is my favorite page because I think in one page you can get the full picture. We've got the 12 courses. We've got the 4 areas of concentration. We've got some example courses you can take within those areas of concentration. You can only choose one area of concentration, or you can choose a minor. If you choose to pursue a minor, you can get a minor in cybersecurity, in entrepreneurship, or in biotechnology. We do have minors that are available from the college, not necessarily offered by MEM. Foreign students, typically on an F1 visa, have to be full-time, and that means you have to take at least 3 courses, or you can take 4 courses per quarter. That's the limit. You cannot take more than 4, which requires you to either graduate in 9 or 15 months. The last quarter of study, if you choose to, let's say, have a light spring, and you want to come back in the following fall, if you've completed 11 courses, you can take your 12th course singularly as a quote-unquote part-time student, even if on an F1 visa, but it can only be during your last quarter of study. So your last quarter of study, we do sign off on what's known as a reduced course load waiver, RCL waivers, which are processed pretty regularly and without any fanfare. Summer internships are encouraged for those on the 15-month program. They're not required, and we do not necessarily source them for you. We do provide long lists of companies and introductions if you need them, but it really is up to you to find that internship. And I'll be honest with you, it has to be done early. Usually before the month of December, internship decisions are made for the following June. These are the demographics. Again, 90% full-time. Full-time students have an average of 3 years experience. We're roughly 62% male. And we have a great variety of different backgrounds, including chemical engineering, electrical, electronics, computer science, information technology. This is where our students are coming from, right? Not just education-wise, but also in terms of what part of the world. We do get students from all over the world, but the subcontinent seems to be dominant lately, I guess, in not just this MEM program, but many others. What else can I say here? This is the same information, I think, in a different format. This is specifically the 2025 class, and I don't see significant differences here. Let's move on. This is where the companies that do supply us students either come from, right? Sargent and Lundy is a local consulting firm that does a lot of work with nuclear power plants. So they design nuclear energy systems, and they've been doing this for quite some time around the world. Abbott Labs, massive pharmaceutical company. Motorola, not so massive telecom company. They used to be a lot bigger. Kraft, GoGo Wireless, Siemens is here, Baxter, Pepsi, Northrop Grumman, GE. We've got a great variety of companies that both source students to us and also hire some of our graduates as well. So some of the events, we have a certified Scrum Master workshop. We have communications workshops. I mentioned earlier the plant visits to Chicago Tube and Iron and Motorola Mobility. Siemens Healthineers is a pretty typical and popular visit. We have a lot of incubators and accelerators, at least half a dozen I can think of. There's one on campus called the Garage that's student focused. We have another one on campus that's faculty focused. But the ones that you're going to really, I think, take advantage of would be MHub, ISTP, 1871. These are some of the major accelerators in Chicago, serving the Midwest. Student projects, right? Some classes require a student team project, others do not. You can also do projects outside the classroom. This is a way of applying the concepts you've learned in class to real world projects. So that microgrid example I gave earlier, imagine designing a microgrid for one of the local companies or local facilities or campuses around Chicagoland. We've had students do that before, and it propels them into energy related industries and companies. So you get to work with other students, both within MEM and outside. It does add value to your resume. I definitely think this will help you distinguish yourself beyond just classwork alone and a GPA. This is actually going to give you something tangible that you can point to as an alum. Mark Johnson's a retired energy industry executive. He's our executive in residence. He helps students along the way, mostly with energy projects. He's got a great network. We tap into it on a regular basis. He helps write recommendation letters, introduction letters, and he helps manage and formulate projects. A typical project here would be EV buses on campus. This was something that was designed, I want to say, several years ago. I don't think the campus has yet accepted the project, but obviously the work's been done to analyze routing, optimization, monetization, all the things you would expect, including basic things like where do you refuel and where are the bus stops and how long can the bus run without refueling, et cetera, et cetera. Some resources for you on campus for careers. ECD is your first place to go. Engineering career development. We have companies that come in on a regular basis, job fairs, resume reviews, workshops, et cetera, et cetera. So the big thing is the 2 annual career fairs that they run. NCA does the same thing, but mostly for consulting. So if you're not interested in engineering jobs, but want to do consulting, NCA is there to help you with that. And also the main thing we would recommend is you get out there and network. That's how you're going to get a job, right? At least in this day and age. So in 2023, we had 48 graduates, 90% were gainfully employed within 3 months. These are the types of jobs they had when they left. Some of them were product managers, marketing managers, platform engineers. We even had a few people go to NASA. In 2024, we had 91% gainful employment within 90 days, 52 graduates, so a slightly larger crowd, a bigger variety, I guess, of different like titles that they were able to obtain. We don't really know necessarily what 2025 looks like yet. We're still collecting the data. But in general, it does look like people were getting jobs even back in 2024. This is where, internships versus full-time, there's different rates of payment, of course, and different, ability to get these types of positions. Every year is different. The last year or so has been a little bit tough for the market. So not everyone who wanted an internship last summer got one. But in general, we do get close to 100% placement in the past, before this last summer. Again, 90% or so employed within 6 months. These are the other schools within the MEMPC. I can recommend each and every one of them. But if you're an experienced STEM professional, the only 2 schools really that cater to that are MIT and Northwestern. So the other schools generally admit people without experience, fresh out of school. We don't normally do that, but we will accept people with less than 3 years if you have something exemplary in your background. So if you have less than 3 years as of September of 26, consider applying, especially if you have at least 2. And I'm sure that you'll get a certain consideration for your application. These other schools, very good schools, really scattered across the country. Duke is in North Carolina. Most of these others are actually in the Northeast. USC is the only California school here, and Purdue is the only other Midwest school here. So everyone else is Northeast or North Carolina. The requirements for admission. We do want you to have a solid GPA, 3.0 or higher. We have let a few people in with less than 3.0. And if you're less than 3.2, we recommend GMAT or GRE. We want 3 letters of experience, or sorry, 3 letters of reference from people that you've worked with, ideally on the job in your industrial setting. Only 1 academic letter, please. We want a strong, concise personal statement. This could make the difference between you getting in and not getting in. You will take probability and statistics over the summer to help bolster you and get ready for 407, which is our operations research course. For international students, TOEFL greater than 100, IELTS greater than 7. We do want WES or ECE transcript evaluations whenever you have a degree outside the US. And the good news is, this is the 2nd year in a row, there's no application fees, 0 application fees. So spread the word. There's no impediment really, except your time to get admitted into Northwestern. Our tuition is roughly $7,000 a course, $22,000 per quarter. So to multiply by 3 for the 3-quarter program. December 15th is just around the corner. It's less than roughly a month away, 5 weeks away. That is our deadline for round 1. December 15th, round 1 applications are due. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Part-time students, you can apply as late as November 15th, which is about a week from now, if you want to get in the winter quarter. If you're interested in spring quarter, you have until February 15th. So those are the deadlines for part-time and full-time study. Again, full-time applicants, round 1, December 15th. It's to your advantage. We don't have scholarships. We don't have financial aid. But what we do have is, I think the first round generally has the highest yield and also probably has a better chance of actually starting in the fall than any other round. So try to hit round 1. We have some testimonials from Iqbal. He would normally be on the call, but we actually have Karan with us, Karan Gupta. This is what Iqbal had to say. He's the CTO of Cerence. He was a former CTO of Motorola. And you can see that he says he was very fortunate that he used everything that he experienced in MEM throughout his career. So he's also on our advisory board. Our advisory board is a great way to connect up with industry, and they're all here to help our fellow students. Karan, I hope you're with us. I see you're here. I'll give you the floor for a few minutes. Maybe you can share with us your experience as an MEM student.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Mark. And hi, everybody. Nice to virtually meet you. And I'm excited to be here. So yeah, my name is Karan Gupta. My background is actually in software engineering, and I did my undergrad from Miami University of Ohio. And then I worked in consulting for 4 years and did a lot of like work in automation, analytics, and so on. I mean, I can't speak more about the MEM program, and I feel like it's one of the best blend of engineering and some of the innovative courses that are out there. And a lot of the courses that we have at MEM really kind of like teaches you how to understand the business side, but also how to blend the technology side to kind of bring it all together. So like, I feel like in my classes, there were pretty much um, at least 1 or 2 projects that were like team projects, and we were able to like build things and like build portfolios. So for example, like in product management, we actually end up going interviewing people, like understanding the problem, understanding how do you go about like delivering a product from like end to end, and then we ended up like building a solution and have a real product to talk about. From a Northwestern perspective, there's a lot of opportunities here. There's a lot of connections and also some of the smartest people out there. So whether it's whether it's like entrepreneurship is your niche or something that you like, there's a lot of opportunities at Garage. Whether you want to like go explore consulting, Chicago is one of the best areas to kind of work in that area. Whether you want to go to tech, a lot of my classmates are actually like going to work in some of the big companies out there like Tesla, Microsoft, and so on, and Adobe. So yeah, I mean, from my perspective, MEM is the perfect blend, and especially now when I'm applying for jobs, like when we interview, they actually really prefer that we are coming from an MEM background, because nowadays people want people who are able to actually understand the technology side, but also are engineers who can actually solve problems. Versus a traditional MBA, I feel like there's a little bit gap of people understanding the tech side, or like being a little bit more in depth on some of the domains that people end up working in. So yeah, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to put my LinkedIn in the chat. And anything else that you would like me to talk about, Mark?
Well, I know you've been working in consulting. Once upon a time, the consulting world really wanted MBAs more than any other kind of masters. But I think in the last 5, maybe 10 years, that's changed, right? I think you kind of mentioned it, but is it true that they're looking for more technically oriented master's programs?
Yeah, exactly. I That's the change that has happened in the last 5 years, I would say, especially like post the pandemic world. Like for example, most of the recruitment that was done at my previous firm, Deloitte, was like people who were coming from engineering backgrounds, people like electrical engineers, mechanical engineers. A lot of them also have like science backgrounds, like some of the researchers were hired. So what the consulting companies are looking for nowadays is like people who have this problem mindset, like are able to understand how do you solve problems, but they also have some in-depth knowledge and some kind of domain knowledge that they can bring on. So I think energy is a pretty good example. Like a lot of petroleum engineers or like mechanical engineers get hired for like McKinsey and things like that, just because they want somebody who's able to bring that in-depth knowledge. And how consulting world is changing is like it's changing from just understanding the problem and just giving your insights. It's becoming more about like solutions, like how do you give solutions and how do you deliver solutions.
I remember when you applied to the program, you were very thorough, probably more thorough than any other candidate I've ever seen. I think you must have researched every MEMPC school in some depth. Why Northwestern?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest reasons about Northwestern, like one of the biggest things is like the alumni base. And I think like Northwestern's alumni is very tight knit. I've reached out to a lot of people on LinkedIn, and a lot of people have gotten back to me, versus like, for example, when I was applying, I was like reaching out to people at other schools. Like I don't want to name them, but like they never responded back to me. And like there was not like, I mean, any communication. And I feel like, as you were mentioning, like networking, that's a pretty good kind of area for Northwestern in my perspective. And then one of the biggest factor that I was looking at was the batch that we have is a very small batch, in the sense that everybody has something to add from a value perspective. And then also everybody has some kind of work experience. So you're not working with people who are coming out fresh from college, just because I think that adds a little bit of a in-depth analysis as well as kind of experience that you can learn from each other. And in the end, if you think about it, like these are going to be our network for the future. And a lot of people end up doing great things. So I want to be part of that network, and I want to be part of something that I can take it as my board of advisors for the future. So I think that is one of the biggest things. And then I think Chicago, having Chicago right here in our backyard, and being able to like go network with professionals there. And then Chicago is one of the most like amount of opportunities in the Midwest area. So I think from that perspective as well, like Northwestern is very, very highly like appreciated by companies here, is what I would like to say.
On behalf of the cohort and certainly the program, we feel very fortunate to have you. You've been an exemplary student, and I think your career reflects that. You've had an amazing career, and I expect you to have an even more amazing one in the years to come. Any questions for Karan? Otherwise, I would like to turn it over to Sreekar. Sreekar Reddy is one of the founders of Gradvine. Gradvine's been an amazing resource for MEM candidates and prospects all over the world who are looking at all sorts of programs. There's several hundred MEM programs that I'm aware of. Sreekar, did you want to say a few words?
Absolutely, and I'll keep it short. And it's good to see you, Karan, again, and congrats on your wedding. It's lovely to see the pictures. Thanks for sending them, and great to see you, Mark, as well, after our visit, and there's the picture on cue on screen to the campus. So I wanted to touch upon MEM in general, right? And even though you did cover the whole, the inevitable comparison between the MEM and the MBA. So I'm an MEM grad myself. I applied ages ago now, fall of 2014. So it's been over 10 years since I entered the cohort at Dartmouth at that time. And the MEM was a relatively unknown degree at that point, and people would ask me, what is this degree that you're doing? Is it an MS? Is it an MBA? Is it something in the middle? And at that point, we didn't have very clear answers. I could learn of its value only after I attended the program and I graduated, and the very relevant skills it gave me, apart from my full-time job in my entrepreneurial journey as well. But the MEM over the last years, and Gradvine helps with all programs, a master's in computer science, an MBA, mechanical engineering, industrial engineering, you name it. But we've seen a remarkable increase in the number of applicants for MEM programs across the board. And we were trying to figure out why. And the answer to that is simply because the industry demands it, right? You're investing in an education, you'd want a return. And engineering management degrees deliver that in aces and spades pretty much. Today, I'm sure you've heard that there are no companies that don't use technology, right? There's no such thing as a technology company. Every company uses technology. And the feedback that we've been getting from the industry and several MEM PC schools is that it's easy to teach an engineer about management and upskill them in that way so that they can contribute to the company. But it's very difficult to imbibe analytical engineering and quantitative skills for somebody who does not come from that background, which they've been facing with a lot of MBAs. And that is where the engineering management program has been fitting in fabulously. If you want to break into product management, project management, operations, supply chain, if you want to work as a tech consultant, it's absolutely a fantastic fit for you. Now, one thing that I'd like all of the attendees on this webinar to think about is, I know that there's a lot from the Indian subcontinent and India, and we obsess with rankings, right? Universities ranking one versus the other. All of these schools in the MEM PC are terrific schools. I'd like you to take some time to try and understand the fit, because the fit is very, very important. Northwestern, like Mark said, is very well tailored for people who have prior experience, maybe 2 to 3 years. It may not be a great fit for somebody applying fresh out of college. Same thing for some other universities. There's a different lens, there's different tuition fees, there's co-op programs ingrained in it. So each program is very different in terms of focus, curriculum, and what it offers you. And absolutely, please do think about that very deeply before applying. Research the programs well, like Karan did. We had several conversations about the different programs he got into, and he got into several other wonderful ones. But he really dove deep before making that final choice. And that could make the difference between a great career path and a slightly more difficult one. Fit is everything, and please take time to assess that. And I visited the Northwestern campus, and that was a fantastic experience. And apart from the fact that Kellogg is so closely ingrained with the program, the garage and the incubation centers, one thing that stood out about Northwestern is the peer group. You are the sum average of the people around you. And when a program is very selective with its cohort, it makes a difference for you and your career. And the amount of collaboration I saw at Northwestern among each one of the people that I interacted with is absolutely tremendous. I believe I was, talking to Bharat, and, Bharat Yedla and his experience, it still stands to me today, right? 6 months later, how he had 2 or 3 internships, and he was still aiding with the internship search process, directing internships that he may not be a fit for to the rest of his peers. And this is something that I honestly did not hear from in any other program, right? So it's actually your own peers helping you out in your job search and your internship search, and that is incredibly valuable, and definitely a fantastic program worth considering. Mark, I'm going to end my talk here, but I'm going to end it with a question for you, because this is a question which I don't think anybody would be brave enough as an applicant to ask you in the chat box. It is, of course, the question of AI. And a lot of people, and for good reason, are using AI in their application documents. If I hope I'm not putting you guys on the spot, but how do you view the use of ChatGPT, and to what extent is it okay in the application essays? And that's the question, and I'm going to leave the stage for you guys.
Well, what I would like to see with the personal statement is something that is probably not something you can easily automate. So what is it about your background? What is it about your history? What is it about your own personal preferences and the way your brain is wired? Why do an MEM program? It seems ironic that, we spend 45 minutes trying to explain to people why MEM is right for them, but the application flips that around and it says, okay, why are you right for MEM? And in the interview process, first of all, you can't automate that either. I mean, it's a face-to-face live Zoom-based call that I'm going to spend at least a half an hour with you face-to-face with me, asking you questions again, like why is MEM right for you? Why is this the right time for you? Why is Northwestern right for you? And why don't you just go to an MBA program? I mean, if you have MBA envy, please just do that. Go get your MBA. Don't ever regret the master's degree that you have invested so much time and energy and passion into, right? There's very little that in the application that can be automated. The personal statement is about it. And I think we would see through that immediately, simply because it's not, it has to draw from you. It has to draw from your own experience, your own desires, your own goals, your own aspirations. And if AI can do that, then that would be news to me. I have not seen any AI that can reach into your soul and into your brain and explain why you want to do something in the future that you've never done before.
All right, thank you so much for that answer. And with the MBA topic, right, you get very, very similar career outcomes at essentially half the cost. And like I said, we help hundreds of students with MBA applications, and increasingly so that cost burden and that return on investment is weighing on their minds a lot more. So you get incredible value. And you're going to be just as good while you're progressing in your career, 3, 4, 5, 6 years after you graduate with a good MEM degree. Again, there are hundreds out there at this point, but I'm emphasizing on the good ones. And that's all I'd like to say before ending. Thanks so much for giving me the time, Mark.
Well, thank you, Sreekar. That was great. Let me just add that I've had students come who are married, and often one spouse is going to Kellogg and one spouse is coming to MEM. And obviously they're spending a lot of time together, they're living together, and they're comparing notes. It's just like, how is the MBA experience different from MEM? We get very practical very early. We have practitioners teaching. So there was a question, why is this a good program for experienced STEM professionals? We have practitioners teaching you, not so much academics, not people who've spent their entire lives in a classroom, but rather much of their lives, at least their adult lives, working in industry, working for a company, working as an engineer, right? So in that sense, we get very practical very early. Our students are working on projects almost from the beginning. We spend very little time on some of the, I guess, camaraderie, team building, and other types of kind of competitions that MBAs have with each other. We emphasize collaboration. We want every student in MEM to collaborate with their fellow students, to support them, and to not compete with them. So if you're looking at jobs and you find a job that's great for your fellow MEM student, we encourage you to share that information, to share that kind of prospect with them. Because if you're looking out for your fellow student, that means somebody else is looking out for you, right? It's very difficult for me to look out for all 50 or 60 students in the program every day. But if everyone's looking out for everybody, then more than likely you're going to see a much higher level of success, right? And if you compare a 90% success rate in terms of placements, right, in industry that we have here versus even some of the best MBA, I was reading that Harvard's got 78% placements. So I know it's a tough market, and I know that in the end, we're all kind of trying to overcome some of the economic issues and geopolitical issues, right? And who's to say what it's going to be like a year from now or 2 years from now? My guess is there will be pent-up demand. What this country is investing in is repatriating industries, companies, manufacturing facilities, distribution, and supply chain. By repatriating all of those things, pretty much at the same time across multiple industries, aerospace, automotive, semiconductors, batteries, et cetera. The need for engineers in this country, in the US, will probably grow dramatically, right? We don't want our engineers to go into banking or necessarily finance when there's so many engineering needs within industry today that aren't necessarily being filled. So that's my pitch, that's my prospect, that's my hope. Of course, anything can happen, and every day is a new day. I guess, Faisal, you got a question?
Yeah, only if the Q&A got kicked off. I just
Sure.
raised my hand, but I'm happy
Yeah.
to wait.
No, I'm ready for Q&A. Go ahead.
All right, now happy to kick us off with that then. Mark, my name is Fazal. I have over 5 years of experience in the energy industry. And my question is, you've undoubtedly had an illustrious career that spanned multiple companies and domains. Would you say that the Masters in Engineering program enables students to access industries or focus areas that are outside of their former lives, or whether
Yeah.
the realistic trajectory is to move back into the vertical you come from now with more robust analytical and business insights?
Well, for safety reasons, I always tell people, keep the doors open to the industry you came from. So if you have good contacts, good connections, good experiences, don't ever throw those away. However, I've known several people who came from oil and gas and they go into clean tech, right? So they work for companies like Invenergy that do wind and solar projects around the world, or they work for a solar panel company, or they work for Tesla on their energy side. By the way, Tesla Energy hires probably more folks from our program than any other part of Tesla, including their automotive section. So we have great connections with energy companies, mainly because our EIR, Mark Johnson, has those connections. He's been working with us for 7 years, and I think that reputation kind of spreads and people understand it. There's a great need, especially in energy, and I encourage people who are on the fence in terms of what industry to work in to seriously consider either healthcare, med tech or pharmaceutical, or energy. And in energy, I mean clean tech energy. So the grid in the United States, if you don't know this, is already probably pushing 50, 60 years old in many places and is in need of refurbishment, repair, and upgrade. It's not designed for distributed generation, what's known as DG. It's not designed for sustainable energy. It's not designed for grid level storage. So all of those things, plus DC, DC transfer of basic, high power DC across the grid, the transmission lines need to be upgraded and installed in many cases. So companies like Invenergy are doing all the above. They're doing wind, solar, storage, transmission, and more. Karan?
Yeah, I would love to add something here. So I would say like also think about transferable skills. Like sure, you have a domain knowledge, you have something that you have worked in from your background. For example, in my perspective, when I came into the program, like I was definitely really trying to pivot from like let's say consulting analytics background to like a product program management background. And as Mark said, like there's a lot of opportunities in healthcare. Like I'm currently interviewing for a healthcare consulting role, but it's more on the product side. And then the program actually like puts you in the waters in the sense like you get to experience so many different things. Like I know somebody from my class, like he's from KPMG, like brings an accounting, kind of like a strategy planning, consulting background, but now he's working for Robotaxi for Tesla. So it's all about like how do you kind of leverage what you have here at the program, but then also like showcase on your resume that, hey, if I want to go from like, let's say, energy to like energy product management space, like these are the projects that I've worked on at Northwestern in the last 4 or 5 quarters, and this is what I've done. So it's all about like showcasing that in your resume. And then since I'm going through recruiting, like I'm talking to a lot of recruiters, and they all say like, hey, like we love your background, we love what you have, but we want to see those projects where you can actually talk about like real impact that you can bring into this company based on what you have recently done. So sure, like think about whatever you want to do, but also you might have to put in a little bit extra effort if you're trying to like pivot from something that's not in what you have done. But then it's also about like how you kind of story tell and tie it all back to like, okay, these are my transferable skills, and this is how I can bring it back to this new opportunity that I want to work in.
I would
Yeah,
encourage all of you to keep an eye on our LinkedIn page, because we keep not just our progress with our students and our alum and our faculty, but we're also posting job opportunities. You'll get a sense of what's out there, who's hiring, and for what purpose, right? Did that answer your question, Fazal?
absolutely. Yeah, it did. Appreciate the insights, Mark and
I
Karan.
guess I failed to mention that I'm an MEM alum myself, but I guess I failed to mention it because it's such ancient history and it goes so far back. Most of you weren't even alive. But that said, right, did it help my career? Well, I was an engineer in a factory at Motorola when I started the program. When I finished the program, I was a senior program manager, right? Now, okay, it took me 3 or 4 years to finish the program. And yes, I had to leave one company to, I'm sorry to say, I had to leave one company and go to another company in a different industry, because frankly, when you're typecast as an engineer, it's very hard to break out of that mold sometimes. So, Motorola appreciated my engineering skills and wanted me to stay an engineer in their world forever, right? And I was like, yeah, I got more aspirations than this. I like being an engineer, and I embrace it, but I want to build on that, not just be stuck in a factory somewhere. So I left the company, went to Northrop, became a program manager, and later a senior program manager. And with that, my career was propelled forward. But the master's degree at Northwestern was a major enabler of that, right? It opened a lot of doors for me. And I think it's going to open doors for a lot of engineers. It has so far. If anyone's read the World Economic Forum jobs report for 2025, they admit candidly that AI is going to probably wipe out 9 million jobs. But that's not the end of the story, right? It's also going to add 16 million jobs in different ways, and jobs we can't even predict what those jobs are going to be right now, right? And this is what shocked me. The last paragraph was something like 78% of those new jobs are going to require a master's degree. And I kept rereading it thinking that can't be right. But apparently the new jobs are going to be such highly skilled jobs that a bachelor's degree alone is probably not going to hack it. So that's reason enough to seriously consider getting a master's. And I think MEM for engineers, if you truly value and want to build on your engineering pedigree and the hard work you've done to get to this point, then I would recommend MEM, whether it's this MEM program or any of the MEM PC programs. I can attest that they're all high quality. We all watch each other carefully. I can recommend all of them, but for different reasons and for different, different parts of your life. This picture here that I'm sharing with you now was the graduating class from about 2 or 3 years ago. On the far left, you see Professor Don McNeely. He's the CEO of Chicago Tube and Iron. We've got a lot of relationships with companies like CTI, right? I spent last night with SAI, which is a power systems and power management company. They're growing by leaps and bounds. This is a company that's doubling every year. Yes, even this year they are doubling. So there's opportunities there. One of the big things in the US right now is the build out of data centers. So what I do in my project management class, I say you have a choice. You can create a project plan for a data center, a hyperscale data center, some of the major ones coming out of Tesla, or a new drug development. And it requires you to understand the process in a lot of detail, to lay it out in a project plan, to lay out the financials, to lay out the ROI, the risk-adjusted net present value, all of it. This is an integrated project that requires technical skills and business skills and management skills and planning skills. And you have an artifact at the end of the class. And that artifact proves to your future employer that you've been there, you've done that, you have an understanding of that industry and that type of project in a way that most MBAs would never have. So we're getting very close to the end. I'm going to assume that all your questions have been answered. Yes, in terms of AI, yes, we have added some AI content. In fact, we have an entire class called Managerial Analytics. It's part of our, offering. We're thinking it's eventually going to become part of the core. It's taught by Professor Mike Watson, who spent a lot of time at IBM doing AI work and machine learning work. I put AI into my project management class. I know AI is in the product management class. All the entrepreneurship classes now have been introduced to some of the tools, including MIT Orbit. which is helping entrepreneurs develop their business model canvas in an automated way. So there's LLMs that are being used in, I'd say, at least half of the classes within MEM right now today. Product management, project management, entrepreneurship, managerial analytics, et cetera, et cetera. So we've infused it. We don't necessarily want you to become data scientists. That's not our objective. If that's your objective, then I would recommend the Masters of Science in Learning and Data Science within Northwestern here. It's the same department, much more technical, much more intense on the math side, and it's a full-time day program. Those folks get very high placement rates as well. Besides product management and TPM, yes, there's all sorts of supply chain management. We have a operations and supply chain concentration that's becoming one of the most popular because frankly, that's where a lot of the jobs are. So the folks struggling to get jobs are not in operations and supply chain. Let me tell you that, right? So the operations and supply chain concentration is probably the hottest concentration we have right now. Northwestern is known for this. In fact, this was our legacy back, this program is almost 45 years old. So in those 45 years, we've gone through a lot of gyrations, but in the early days, we were all about operations and supply chain. So that's where a lot of the jobs are. We have a lot of expertise on the faculty side, and we have a reputation in that area as well. So whether it's operations and supply chain, product management, project management, managerial analytics, whatever your area of concentration is, those are the four that we can support very well. I want to thank you all for your time today. It's after 10. So hopefully, again, reminding you, apply before December 15th, and you will be part of the round one application process. We'll get you an answer probably within 60 days. Okay. With that, thank you all and have a good weekend. Thank you, Karan. Thank you, Sreekar. Take care. Bye-bye.